Part 23, commonly known as King Asmodeus. This is an interactive series where you choose which energies you'd like to practice with. And for those who are new and haven't seen this series yet, I recommend binging them. Go to the top of my page and click the saved ones in the collection that says practicing with energies. And hi, I'm Nicole. I'm an astral coach and an interactive artist. I've dedicated my life to making art interactive by helping you understand your unique energy and finding where you would like to fit and become the artist of your life. So normally I talk to the original energy, which I will provide a link for demons and angels below, and also about the unique energy. I can only put 3 links, so I'll put one of the unique energy because the demons and angels are more it's more important for this video. So when we begin speaking about his first interactions with Earth, what's going on there, it'll start to make sense about why we chose all these different things above. The top 2 are artists that depicted him, I found on Pinterest, and the bottom 2 are made with AI together. He says if you mix all 4 together, that's how he feels. And whatever you feel most comfortable with, all 4 of them, you can pick one, or you can combine all of them, or you can do them one at a time. But he was very interactive, more than all the other energies, having to choose the backgrounds. They all kind of are, but not like this. So because it's not like my normal information that is a bigger picture, it's going to be from all the different versions of him throughout time, including his starting story. We're going to start with his starting story. So how and why did his energy come to Earth? His energies were originally sent from seraphim. That's an angel, just in case you didn't know. And this particular energy is all about organization and organizing energy. And this is large scale. So you can think of, if you were to see the plans of how things exist, not just physically, but everywhere in the universe, it's like an architect kind of. So that's kind of the vibes of that energy. This collective energy wanted to explore and express their energy on Earth by creating various anchor points that I usually talk about in my lives. Therefore, it's going to be, when it involves making human anchor points, there needs to be like a whole amount of higher selves. So that was created as well. That higher self energy distributes, manages, and holds all the human life. One of the human anchor points, he says to concentrate on that image, happening in nomadic Persia, which is modern day Iran. He was explaining that his family was attempting to settle and try to begin their agricultural processes. His family tribe was so close to getting set up, and neighboring villages and other nomads didn't like this. They saw it as a challenge and as a weaker group that needed to be shut down. They would sabotage and pillage and do all the things that we all know that are very horrible in this kind of circumstance. They were constantly having to rebuild and start where they left off over and over and over again. Asmodeus had an idea all of a sudden. His name isn't Amadeus as a human, but he'd like me to call his human that. Channeling that seraphim energy, he quickly organized the best way for his family. To permanently establish ourselves into a village would be to cultivate our anger and create from it with passion and a reason for living. Because at this point, his whole family and tribe were all over the place and not united, which would lead them being kind of ditzy and going to nearby villages that are accomplished and can sniff confusion from a mile away. Or the nomads who move around with purpose because of this different changes of seasons. They completely know their value and they know who they are and what brings them together as a village or a group of nomads. Once he expressed this to his people, they started to notice all their common goals and stood united with what their group was specialized in, which was agriculture in plants. How and when they grow, what they are good for, in food, medicine, clothing, and other products. Soon they were able to settle because the villages and nomads that were around appreciated their value, and they needed and wanted them to thrive for their priceless information and products. From this human experience, he left this legacy, and to be honest, Iran wouldn't be Iran with what it is today. If you're more interested in what happens when this human experience branched off into starting the demon role, please see the links below. I'll link them. So our first religion that plays around with his energy is the Zoroastrian religion. Here he goes as Ashma, of wrath and fury. They were channeling the stories of his human life, but only chose to keep that part about wrath and fury. He says it was to fit their recipe and the way that their religion works, and he appreciates it because of the structure, because his energy is all about structure, the bigger part of his energy. It was helpful in the time, and we should not be angry at religion, especially for something like this. He says this because when we judge, we are further repressing our desires and not noticing that our judgment comes from something that we want ourselves. It might not look obvious at first, but it's very important to look into it and ask ourselves, what do we want to create that we feel like no one else can as well? He blatantly says, judging crushes any chance of alchemizing what you already have. Later in Judaism, Asmodeus, in the book of Tobit, this story was created to help people with lust, which he says is the same thing as passion, and a reminder of who we are. Many people focus on or feel or notice the sexual lust energy because it's the most universally repressed feeling and expression that most humans can agree and experience with. This story promotes this and makes it worse. In Islam, he's known as Sakhir, aka Rock. So Solomon blames his behavior on being possessed, and he takes those wrong deeds that he actually did and binds them to a rock with iron chains and throws them into the sea. Asmodeus notes that the people learning from this story might want to take responsibility for their actions, and instead of burying it, they should take this as an opportunity to see what they were repressing in the first place that caused them to take these actions. Sufism has its own take, locking the demon prince, which he says actually symbolizes the shadow self, into a rock again and throwing it into the sea, because if you don't, you won't be able to connect with the divine. So probably enlightenment vibes. He said this could have been good if they transformed instead. For example, doing shadow work. The next culture is in the 1400s, so medieval vibes, and he starts being categorized as a demon in grimoires. This time period was struggling really hard with plagues and lots of problems and diseases, and all they had was the guidance of one God in scriptures. So when natural feelings such as passion, joy, or lust came through, their libraries, I call, the information that was misplaced because they needed to name all these emotions and feelings to demons. Writers and artists start beginning to channel his original energy, which is the seraphim, and they're horrified because, again, the libraries and context, they think it's a beast and they're scared and they're like, what is this? And also because of the time, the way that they treated other people and animals, this reflects in those grimoires about controlling and doing things like that. They did identify things and they did get things organized. It became like recipes, which, as everyone knows, on my lives, I'm not a fan of because this is the kind of stuff that happened. He's mentioned again in the 1600s in Christianity, probably because of all the lore that's been created and because they needed to handle things that they're being repressed, good and evil. They needed beings for all of these things. So he was named in the trial of the possessed nun from the Ursuline convent of Loudun, France. He says sometimes nuns, when they needed to express things or show their power, they would pretend to be possessed. And everything that they were saying were the things that they needed and wanted to talk about. Because they're humans, they also would get jealous and sad and disappointed. So when Grandier, a priest, what turned down the leadership role at the convent, they acted out and ended in his demise. Now for 1800s, King Asmodeus, the Infernal Dictionary. As you can see, these cultures choose and depict and channel energy to deal with the issues of their time.